So now the audience has questions for you, all of which we definitely will not get to. So I'll pick some. Please don't be offended if yours isn't chosen. So first, how do we get evangelicals to stop fearing the boogeyman of Marxism in politics slash society and recover social justice as a Christian call, not a political tool?
Well, I'll say one thing is social justice is important. I think we need to make sure that we're taking our cues, though, not from whatever the presiding authorities happen to be saying right now are the sort of leading causes of social justice. It's one of my concerns with, I think, a political outlook that seems to originate and be completely shaped and defined by the last 5-6 years of our politics, which is that if you extend your outlook a bit, you'll see the great sort of that some of the leading voices for social justice now are saying things about criminal justice reform, for instance, that is the exact opposite of what they were saying 20 years ago. But the moral language has not, the moral certitude has not changed. The policies have completely flipped, but the moral certitude has not changed. So, I think it's, look, there is a significant percentage of the population that is just in an absolute sewer of a media environment, that is in a really predatory activist environment in which potentially only the gospel can help shift what is self-centered to what is other-centered. But I also want to make sure that we are not imposing on people who are trying to navigate the world as we are, a prescribed sort of vision of what social justice looks like that is not necessarily synonymous with faithfulness or a biblical worldview or anything like that. And so I know it's very frustrating for Pat. Anytime you mention racial injustice, it's becoming a cultural Marxist, and that's something I don't think you could bend to. I think you need to be clear about where scripture sits, again, not on particular policy instruments, but as David said, the orientation of the heart. But also we need to be careful not to impose the latest dogma and ask everyone else to follow it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that one of the things that is important in this, so number one, let's just acknowledge that there is absolutely no way to navigate, for example, race issues without somebody getting supremely ticked off. So the measure of your success is not, did everyone agree with me? So some people are going to get supremely ticked off, even if you just raise it. I mean, where I am in Middle Tennessee, there are people who are trying to ban from our early elementary curriculum the book Ruby Bridges Goes to School. Okay. They're trying to, and one of the offensive, another one about Dr. King Goes to Washington. The Norman Rockwell painting of Ruby Bridges desegregating schools in New Orleans. So that is not a position where you're going to say, well, in order to accommodate somebody who's upset at a historically accurate depiction of desegregation, I'm going to remain quiet. No. However, at the same time, there is also we should go out of our way to try to use language and concepts that are not explicitly tribal, jargony, and often highly political, okay? So there are different ways of describing things. So in more left-leaning circles, you might say systemic injustice or systemic racism, and people will know what you mean, and it's not going to be super controversial. You might go into another audience And the word systemic racism might immediately mean that they don't, or the phrase systemic racism might immediately mean they tune you out completely. And so I still want to communicate with folks and I still want to reach their hearts on this. So one of the ways that I try to do it, I say, there was 345 years of racism of slavery followed by Jim Crow, which is legally enforced discrimination violently defended for 345 years. You do not eliminate all of the effects of that in 57 years of contentious change after the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Do you agree? And if somebody says yes to that, now we're cooking. Now we're cooking. If somebody says no, that of course you eliminate the effects of 345 years in 57 years of contentious change, well, you got to back up some steps there. But if they're going to agree that you don't eliminate those consequences in those 57 years, you got something to work with. And then the other thing is, don't go for everything when you can go for one thing or two things. And this is one of the things that is just so much a part of our online discourse, which is, if you're not my 100%, if you're only my 80% friend, you're turned into a 100% enemy. So, in a race issue, you could talk about, oh yeah, we absolutely need qualified immunity reform. We need a ban on no-knock raids. We need this. We need greater funding for inner city schools. And then they say, and we need to get rid of gifted and talented programs. You go, whoa. Well, then all of a sudden you're a bad person. No, dive into the areas of agreement. Dive into those. And I think that because one of the things that ends up happening, ironically enough, is that if you treat somebody as a pariah when they don't agree on everything, nothing happens. Nothing happens except you feel awesome about yourself and terrible about the other person. So find the point of agreement, dive into the point of agreement, and also understand that there are some folks for whom even bringing up the topic is too much. But that doesn't mean, because your goal isn't universal consensus, that doesn't mean that you don't bring up the topic. You have to bring it up. You have to. But there are ways in which you can do it that I think can build consensus rather than divide.